Hey, want to attend your next game for 5% off? We've got a brand new sponsor, Ticket IQ. Visit ticketiq.com or download the Ticket IQ app and use promo code LPG5 for 5% off your first order. Ticket IQ is your smartest ticket search, offering the largest and most diverse ticket inventory for live events. All tickets are guaranteed with 100% buyer protection, providing a safe and secure ticket purchase for any type of live event, including the Browns, Indians, Cavs, Buckeyes, Blue Jackets, concerts, the WWE, and more. Whenever you find a ticket listed as a low price guarantee, you'll know that's the lowest price for that ticket on the market. So visit Ticket IQ and use promo code LPG5 to save 5% on your next event. That's LPG5 for 5% off on ticketiq.com. Go ahead and do this for the next Browns game, home game, Thursday night versus the Jets. Get your 5% discount. And you're going to see our link. You can help us out at Cleveland Sports Talk and also get yourself a ticket for 5% off by using the link in the iTunes description on the show. We'll see you there in the Dog Pound.
Brownie Sunday, wake up in the late afternoon. Call Rod Bloom just to see how he's doing. Yo, what's up, Rod? Hey, Chad, what's happening? You thinking what I'm thinking? Cleveland Sports Talk, man, it's happening.
No! Welcome into the Brownie Sunday podcast. That was a rough one, people. This is Chad Painter. Joining me, as usual, Rod Bloom, Vice President of Cleveland Sports Talk, and special guest, returning guest, great writer, fantasy guru, Kansas Jayhawks guru, all the way from Kansas, Robby Jeffries. How are you today, my man?
Right now, I'm probably doing a little bit better than you guys. Caught the end of that. It was, oh my gosh. I thought this was the one after that, but we're going to jump into it here in a bit. I don't want to get anything started. But yeah, doing pretty well.
Good to have you here. Rod, how are you feeling? Give me the whole thing. Just wear your heart on your sleeve.
I'm feeling like I'm getting too old for this cardiac kid crap. I mean, two games, the Browns, you can't say they should have won them both, but come on, we should have a win by now, this Browns team. It's just heartbreaking. We'll talk about it more, but yeah, it's rough. It's rough to feel like this team's getting better and better, and then 2 weeks in a row, we're pretty much the same place as we were last season, record-wise, without a win.
Yeah, I knew that I wasn't going to be home until about 2 p.m. today, an hour after kickoff, so I DVR'd the game. So I kind of had a slower death than all Browns fans around here. I did not let myself jump on Twitter. I didn't let myself hear any commentary of any kind. Didn't let anybody call me. I just watched the game without, watched it late and didn't let anybody speak into it or have myself know what happened by the end. So I'm watching the fourth quarter, Antonio Callaway make this monster catch from a bomb. Like Tyrod Taylor took notes from Drew Brees the whole game and all of a sudden threw a bomb like a Drew Brees, shot down the field to Antonio Callaway for the touchdown. And I was out of my seat going nuts because we're going to win. We're going to win 19-18, about 1:18 left on the clock. Our defense has shown to be elite to keep this Saints team to, what was it? They scored 18 total, but by the end of the fourth quarter, but they kept them to 12 up until the fourth quarter, and so I was loving the defense. I knew they could stop them, and then Zane Gonzalez, just don't even get on the plane, Zane.
Yeah, absolutely.
Zane Gonzalez, just use your last Browns game check to get the nicest Airbnb in New Orleans and wait to see what happens in the next phase of your career, because that's got to be over. And I was telling Rod this. I feel like Hugh Jackson sending him in at the end was kind of, people will probably disagree, but I feel like that was a botched call. I don't think Hugh Jackson should have sent this guy in. You think of the human factor, he's still a human being. Emotions, confidence, everything about him has just been sliced. He's like, I can't kick this ball through the uprights to save my life right now. And to put a game winner on him is rough. Like with 8 seconds left in the fourth, to tie this game up and then try to win again, man, I would have done anything else. I would have just tried to have Tyrod throw another ball to Njoku or something in the end zone. I know it was quite a few yards out, but I would have just run another offensive play, or like Rod's idea, put the punter in.
Yeah, put Britton Colquitt out there. Let Britton Colquitt give it a whack, and if he can't, if he doesn't think he can make it, then select the volunteer off the team. I'm sure Baker, like we talked earlier, Baker's probably like, well, I've never done it before, but yeah, I'll give it a try, whatever's best for the team. So, yeah, I think you're right. I think his confidence was so shot at that point that there was almost no chance he was going to make that kick.
Well, Baker would have had the confidence for that kick, too. Regardless of his kicking prowess, he wouldn't have been not confident about anything he does.
It may have gone 10 yards, but he would have been more confident about it.
Yep.
Well, we know it wasn't the wind. It was in a dome. I don't know how you do. And even Will Lutz missed a big kick early on that really saved us and put us in a position to win. And I'm screaming at the screen, and I'm a Browns fan. Like, Will Lutz, dude, your job every day is to kick 30-yarders in this dome. Like, that's what you do every day. Mm-hmm. And he botched a kick to put us in a position later on where we could have won the game. And Zane Gonzalez just played it worse for us. So try to keep us positive here, Rod. Who are your MVPs for the Browns? Just talk about your MVP on the offense and the defensive side of the ball today, even though it's a tough loss for us, man.
Well, I think you have to say Larry Ogunjobi was the defensive MVP.
Yeah.
He's credited with 2 sacks. He had a third one that was canceled out by I think it was a defensive holding penalty. So, I mean, just seeing him get that kind of push and getting to the quarterback from the defensive tackle position, knowing that we have Myles Garrett coming from the outside, it's just really big to know that we've got, guys that can get there, from different areas. It's just really great to see the growth. I think we all kind of felt like Larry Ogunjobi could become a very good defensive tackle, but we really didn't get a chance to see him enough last year. So just to see the growth and to see him get to the quarterback, it was really exciting. On the offensive side, I have to say that for me, I'm going to say Antonio Callaway was the MVP, and only because of the Josh Gordon information that we know now that we'll talk about a little bit later. Just having him go out there and make that great catch, get open on that deep route to take the lead late in the game. And he had a couple, I don't know how many catches he had for the game, but he had at least another catch or two. Just the excitement of having a guy like that. And now we know he's going to get some playing time. So very, very exciting. And I thought he was the MVP.
Yeah, Ogunjobi has to be the consensus defensive MVP. 3 sacks credited to him. He looked like a monster. They said on commentary that Greg Williams, people keep talking to him about Myles Garrett on the outside, but he keeps wanting to bring up Ogunjobi on the inside. And, man, he proved it. Greg Williams put his money where his mouth was and said, this guy is an MVP on our team. And he went after Drew Brees. He really got through that offensive line for the Saints, which is ranked top 5 for the pass rush and the run. So at least last year. So that's really, really good for him. Thankfully, we've got a guy like that on our D-line after all these question marks about the D-line. And then offensively, I really wanted to say Tyrod all game just because he looked like the perfect game manager. He kept getting in positions where we were able to push the ball downfield. Eventually, especially the second, third quarter, he was finding Landry open. I wish he would have found Landry more, because I forgot that Landry's home is Louisiana. He played for LSU.
That's right.
I knew that part. But he played some high school games in this dome. So it's like he's going back home and playing. He wanted to ball out. He wanted to prove, I believe, he had a chip on his shoulder. Us releasing Josh Gordon last night, or maybe trading him this weekend, whatever we're going to do. He wants to prove, I am the number one receiver on this team. We don't need Josh Gordon. And you can tell he was grabbing every ball that came his way and making people miss on stutter steps. He looked like Alvin Kamara whenever he had the ball in his hands. So I wish he used him more. So it's kind of a Tyrod Jarvis MVP for me. But I can't disagree there. I mean, Antonio Callaway, like I said, had me jumping out of my seat with that monster catch. So
yeah,
good stuff all around, but we don't want to keep hearing, hey, you hung in there, Browns fans. You hung in there. You're kind of competitive. We're just tired of hearing it.
That's right.
Another guy, keep talking about the game here, Rod. Terrence Mitchell, that was a really back and forth love-hate relationship for me all game, because it kept seeming like, especially in the first half, whenever Terrence Mitchell would cause a huge penalty to be thrown on the Browns, he would come back and make a huge defensive play and a big stop. And he would really stop a great receiver like a Ted Ginn or a Michael Thomas. He is the one that knocked that fumble loose, or at least he hit Michael Thomas hard enough to jar loose the ball. Mm-hmm. So I had a love-hate relationship with him all game. If you watched him, I've been a big proponent for bringing Rashad Breeland over here to the Browns and making him our number 2 corner. Denzel Ward obviously gave up that touchdown to Michael Thomas, which is rough. It's got to be so tough for Denzel Ward because, like they said, he was a freshman who was guarding Michael Thomas as a senior, I think, at Ohio State. So it's like Michael Thomas has always been the big brother. He can't stop.
And he's tough to stop for anyone, honestly. Like, that's a tough call, whether you're a rookie or not,
Well, and it's not just Michael Thomas. It's the fact that Drew Brees is throwing to him, too, and he gives him perfect ball placement. It was really tough. I mean, I thought Denzel Ward had good coverage on him most of the time, but Drew Brees can still put that ball in there. So, yeah, I mean, it's definitely a tough game. When Denzel Ward has to start week 1 covering Antonio Brown, and then he goes Michael Thomas week 2, you got to give the kid a break. He's
welcome to the NFL.
Definitely. Yeah, that'd be tough for the best corner in the league, let alone a guy who's starting his first 2 games.
Yep.
Yeah. So also in our defensive backs, Demarius Randall went out. He looked like maybe his shoulder came out of place, a collarbone injury. He was back in the game at the end of the game, but I never really heard what happened to him with that injury update. Did you guys hear anything? I was happy to see him back out there, but I don't know if he's still banged up a bit.
No, I didn't hear any update on that at all.
Yeah.
I assume he's going to be okay. Go ahead.
Just seems like he can't stay healthy. I mean, when you guys traded for him, that was kind of the one knock on him, a little bit with off the field stuff, but just the health. And so it's sad to see him, get that injury bug again. Hopefully not too serious.
Yeah, so there were some bummers there on defense, inconsistent things there, or things we couldn't control. But overall, I was telling this Rod right after the game, our defense looks elite. Like, to be able to hold the Saints back like that in their territory. Rod, what were some of your highlights from the defense? What'd you like?
I mean, I like just that what they were able to do to Kamara. Honestly, I mean, the guy is he is so tough. I mean, he always gets like 2 yards extra on every run. And it was just amazing. You see the stats, and early on, the Saints have like 3 points. And Kamara's, his average per carry or per catch is up there. And Drew Brees, at that point he was like 8 for 10 or 10 for 12. And I'm thinking, how are they even stopping these guys? It's like they kept completing passes and making plays, but the Browns defense just kept coming up big. I thought the guys, the front 7 probably did a great job. It's tough to cover those Saints receivers. It really is. But yeah, I mean, you go back again to Ogunjobi because Myles Garrett, we didn't hear his name called in this one. I think he had one tackle in the game. So they did a great job of stopping Myles Garrett from getting to Breeze. But I think that's probably part of what opened up things for Ogunjobi. So you look at Ogunjobi, you look at just the tackling, the ability to stop Kamara from just making this a laugher. And then I think the DBs did just enough to slow things down. The overall, the Browns defense was just, I mean, it was excellent. It was just excellent. When you hold the Saints to 12 points for almost a whole game, let's just face it, that's a game you should win because you're going in hoping that the Saints aren't going to put up 35 or more points on you. You hold them to 12, through almost the end of the game, it has to be a win. It just has to be a win.
For missing Christian Kirksey and Emmanuel Ogbah today, going into this game, and the news of Josh Gordon, we're releasing Josh Gordon last night, I went, okay, we are going to get beat bad in week 2 by the Saints in their territory. This is not going to be fun. Not nearly as fun as I thought it was going to be. And they did miss a beat on defense especially. So I love that. And like you said, we really didn't hear Myles Garrett's name. I mean, the Saints have one of the best left tackles in the game, stopping him. And like you said, that's a really good analysis. That opened up things in the middle for Ogunjobi. And we certainly saw that happen. So thankfully, we've got guys with that talent level. If you've got to try and stop one like Myles Garrett, we're sending a guy like Ogunjobi through the middle for you. And that's really good stuff for us. Good news. Offensively, though, on the other side, a guy I thought we were going to hear a lot more about, especially with Josh Gordon out. David Njoku, I barely saw. Like, where was David Njoku?
Yeah.
Who should have been a big, physical, even deep threat for Tyrod Taylor in this game with the speed, the agility, the strength, the physicality he brings. I don't know why we didn't, try to bring him into the game more and why we did, like 2 roundabout runs for Antonio Callaway that one really worked well and the second one was an awful call. Bring David Njoku into the game more, man.
Njoku actually had, I was going to say he had 7 targets, 4 receptions for 20 yards. And I know he had at least 1 drop. I mean, I don't know about the other 2 incompletions, but you're right. He's got to be a bigger part of that offense. I mean, 4 receptions, averaging 5 yards a pop. That's just not enough out of that guy.
Yeah, it's tough because when you saw his catch late, I think he got moved the sticks late, and he got 7 targets, and that was kind of the same as what Higgins had got, and probably a couple more than Callaway. But you just kind of hoped for more when he got those catches, I think, because as a tight end, you're not probably getting too many more than 7 targets. You're just hoping to get 5 catches for 75 yards, and instead he got 4 for 20. So maybe he's not getting the catches where he's able to get some space and make plays, but the 4 for 20 stat line and that's just not going to get it done when you're trying to make an explosive offense, especially for how athletic he is. So that was definitely disappointing to see.
Yeah, and the big receiver threat that was there can't cut into his minutes, can't cut into any of his production. Today, I thought David Njoku would get all he could get from the Browns' offensive calling with Josh Gordon out, and we just didn't utilize him. And that'll be my dive. I'm just going to skip ahead, flash forward. My dive will be not using David Njoku and I think Duke Johnson, the two, the David and Duke. We didn't use them properly in this game like we should have. Even though it was close, I think we could have done a better job with those offensive weapons. With that being said, let's move into Thrive or Dive. Thriving or Diving is brought to you by Thrive Fantasy, the brand new way to play daily fantasy sports. They've had some beautiful NFL contests going on through the first 2 weeks. By the time you hear this, Week 1 will have been over and played. Week 2 will have been over and played. In Week 1, they had a free roll for a $50,000 prize to pick all 25 props correctly. In Week 2, they had a guaranteed $4,000 prize pool for only a $25 entry. And as always, you are going to get a $10 match when you use our link, bit.ly/Cleveland Sports Talk, to enter and start your new account with Thrive today. That's bit.ly/Cleveland Sports Talk. You will find the link in the iTunes description on every show. You will find the link on the Brownie Sunday podcast at Brownie Podcast on Twitter. Go ahead and join us and live to thrive, prop up, fill your fantasy team by picking props. You love to do both of these every week. Now do them in one platform with Thrive Fantasy. It's going to be so much fun. Cannot wait to see what they have in week 3. Let's play. Rod, why don't we start out with you? What's your Thrive and Dive for us today?
Well, my Thrive is Larry Ogunjobi. And I think we pretty much covered it already, but just the excitement of seeing him develop and seeing the threat from the inside that we really haven't seen for a long time on the Browns. I don't remember the last time we had a guy that could get to the quarterback from the defensive tackle position, and he got there 3 times today. One didn't count, but he got there 3 times today. Just an excellent game for him, very exciting, and I look forward to seeing what he and Myles Garrett can do together, and hopefully they can get some contributions from some other guys on that defensive line. My dive is Zane Gonzalez. It's been interesting having you on the team, Zane, but I hope you're updating your resume, probably getting your bags packed. I don't know if they let you fly home on the team plane or not, but I'm sure there's going to be tryouts this week for kickers, probably anybody who can kick a football, anybody who's had a job in the NFL in the last 5 years that isn't currently employed. I think they're going to be in Cleveland this week fighting for that kicking position.
Zane, if you're open this week, man, you can definitely come on the podcast and we'll interview you. I'm sure you will be free. With that being said, Robby, what's your Thrive and Dive today, man?
I feel like we always joke about when a player has a bad game and they're going to be cut. They don't get back on the team. Is that even a thing? Do you think? Do you think they really has that happened before where they actually don't let them on the plane? I'm kind of interested to know.
It's going to happen today if it hasn't.
Yeah. But yeah, my Thrive. We'll start with the Thrive. My Thrive was that defense. Obviously, we've touched on it. Rod touched on it a lot. To be able to hold Michael Thomas, I know he had 12 catches, but only 83 yards, so that's less than 8 yards a catch. That's really good job by the defense. And then with Alvin Kamara getting less than 4 yards a carry, that's just a good all-around work by the defense and being able to hold them under 20 points. So definitely a good work on the Thrive. But on the dive end, we're not going to hit on Zane anymore.
You guys there?
He's already been hit. Yeah, we're here, Rod. Can you hear? But other than Zane, I'd say the coaching. I think you touched on it a little bit earlier, Chad. Just some of the decisions that were made and not using Duke Johnson. I mean, I feel like he got just a couple of touches in the game, and he's so electric for the Browns last year. And then, as well as I think Carlos Hyde did, he just couldn't quite break one. I think his longest was maybe 8-10 yards. Maybe giving Chubb a little bit more run and trying to see what he had to offer. I feel like the passing game did what they needed to do, but they didn't get a lot of support from the running game. So maybe that's a coaching thing, whether it's the offensive coordinator or Hugh. I think they could have done a little bit better to get some more points on the board.
Yeah, my bold prediction last week was that Duke Johnson will finish this year fantasy-wise with the most reception yards and most receptions in the entire NFL. That's beating Kamara. That's beating David Johnson. That's beating...
Wow.
Yeah, that's a big time. I mean, those are some big names.
Everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think...
How you feeling about that now?
I'm not feeling good about it week 2 because I really saw a breakout happening for Duke Johnson. If I'm the coach, I'm utilizing him big time on turf in the dome like they do Alvin Kamara. If he gets the production, if they allow him to get the kind of production that Alvin Kamara does on the Saints, I believe he can definitely mirror that kind of production. If they feed him the rock like they do Alvin Kamara. So I believe in that. I'm just not seeing it happen. And I thought I would with Todd Haley, who has been with the Steelers, a creative offensive coordinator, with Le'Veon Bell, who he's seen and maybe even helped get real big success in the NFL. So that's my hope and dream, is that he still comes along and they still use him. I think they're really confused at the running back position. It should not be a weak spot for the Browns after the investing that we've done in the running back position this offseason. Drafting Nick Chubb as high as we did, bringing in Carlos Hyde and paying him, and now having Duke Johnson extended his contract. This should not be a weak point. I think we're going to hit a juncture here where we have to say Carlos Hyde or Nick Chubb, they're our thunder, and Duke Johnson's our lightning, and we just got to go from there. There's way too much confusion. I don't know. I just need to see that. I think it could be Carlos Hyde for this season. Nick Chubb only got a couple totes tonight, but man, Duke Johnson needs a lot more work, and I think he could definitely pull it off. Thrive for me, though. Oh, go ahead, man. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I was just going to add, they've kind of shown that Carlos Hyde's that bell cow. I mean, he got 18 attempts last week. He got 16 this week. I mean, he's the guy. It's not even a split backfield at all. Duke Johnson got 3 or 4 touches this game. He's a non-factor. And I think for a guy that you extended and a guy that's as dynamic as he is out of the backfield catching the ball, that just doesn't quite make sense to me. I know Carlos Hyde's a good back and all, but he got 62 yards on 22 carries. That's an average of 2.8 last week, and then this week 16 for 43. That's exactly the same average. That's just not getting it done, and so I think you have to go back to the drawing board and say, okay, pounding the rock with Hyde isn't moving the sticks for us on these rushing downs. We need to insert Chubb in these plays. We need to insert Duke Johnson, drop more for Duke Johnson. And hopefully that can help the passing offense, because I don't think that was an issue at all today. Tyrod, completed all but 8 of his passes, and he threw a pick, but I don't think the passing was the issue. So that's just my takeaway.
Yeah, it's like they dipped their toes in the water a little bit in week 2 here, game 2 against the Saints, in a week after we saw the Buccaneers really go full throttle and just be kind of risky. They risked it to get the biscuit, as it were, and they won 48-40, and really pushed it downfield and really took risk. And the Browns kind of dipped their toe in the water. Let's see kind of a dynamic play we could run with Callaway. Let's see a kind of dynamic play we could run with Duke Johnson. Okay, well, those kind of worked, but let's kind of stay away from those and just go with Carlos Hyde and run up the middle. Well, why would you do that if we had these dynamic plays and we get aggressive and risky on this team? Those are the plays that worked for us, and those are the plays that worked for the Buccaneers last week. So very, very frustrating to see Duke Johnson have a lack of offense there.
Hey, guys, I have a question for you. Why have we not seen a situation or a set where Duke Johnson's out there and Carlos Hyde is out there? I don't think they've done that yet, have they?
They lined him up at receiver today. In the slot.
At receiver, but
yeah.
I want both of those guys in the backfield once.
Oh, yeah.
Split.
Mm-hmm.
Why won't they do that? I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me. You're telegraphing things if you're out there in the eye, or if you have Duke out, split out. Chances are pretty high that the defense is going to know where the ball's going. So give them some looks, make them think about what's going to happen, and maybe confuse them a little bit. Just, it just doesn't make sense to me to not go with that set on occasion. I wouldn't do it all the time, of course, because you want more receivers out there, but I just think they need to try some other things.
Yeah, you could have a package in there for sure where you're running, 3-4 plays where it's, you see those double reverses or the reverse handoffs where you're handing it off to Hyde and then it gets reversed to Duke going the other way. You see that with Tavon Austin. You see that with some of these smaller backs where they're doing a reverse, and I think that's something that could be put in for sure.
Yeah, it's like I said, Rod. It seems like Todd Haley's just dipping his foot in the water right now with our team and seeing what they can do, and that's rough for fans because we want to see this happen right away. Why not? We saw Ryan Fitzmagic, 35-year-old Ryan Fitzmagic, pull this off last week. We want to be aggressive and use our dynamic playmakers, and we don't want to dip our toe in the water kind of a thing. You're right. We could do something like that where we trick the defense. They don't know who's going to grab the ball out of the backfield and really mess up their reads. It seemed like Todd Haley was pretty basic on that front. Like when he would want to throw off, we don't know if they're going to run or pass, he would just use a 2 tight end set and kind of throw off the defense a bit. But, I mean, you can do a lot more, like you said.
Yeah, my brother actually texted me during the game. He lives in Cleveland, and he said, "Do you think that Todd Haley is sabotaging the play calling to get Hugh fired?"
Interesting theory. Yeah. I like it.
Well, I filtered myself.
It's working.
Yeah, right. I filtered myself from saying Zane Gonzalez bet on the Saints. So, you never know, man. I would hope
Insider
not.
trading again.
Oh, goodness gracious. It's okay, Robbie. You gotta understand, man. I don't know if you can fully understand being a Cleveland fan. This is just.
I can't.
It's anxiety.
It's one thing after another. And it's not even stuff that you normally see.
No, I'm like, how does this happen every year? Josh Gordon gets 3 targets in game 1 and happens to score a touchdown. And we're like, okay, we get Josh back. We've waited like 5 seasons to get the best player on our team. Somehow he's still only 27 years old. I look at my wife last night and I'm like, I don't understand why I have to be a Cleveland Browns fan. I don't know if what do I do? I can't do this anymore.
It's a curse you're born with.
And it's just a curse. I'm only 27. Rod, I'm only 27. I don't know how you've made it. It's just really
the
hard.
Browns were they were pretty darn good when I really started following them. I saw some really excellent teams, some just soul-crushing losses, but I mean the team was good and you felt like the team was going to be pretty darn good every year. So it's a lot easier to follow a team like that than a team where you're wondering when in the world are they going to get their first win in 2 years or however long it's been.
Yeah, I moved to Cleveland when I was 6 years old in 1999. So I've been with the Browns since 1999.
Wow.
And so that has been my era. When they rolled up on the screen, 29. This is Tyrod Taylor. He's the 29th starting quarterback for the Browns since 99. I went, oh my goodness. I cannot keep being reminded of this.
Do we have to see that every week, really? Do we really need that every single week?
And then they said Drew Brees has been the starting quarterback since 2006.
Was Couch the quarterback in 99, or who was the QB when you first moved?
Yeah, Couch. I had a Tim Couch jersey. He was drafted when the Browns just came back to the NFL, when they were reinstated or whatever you'd call it. And they went,
I was going to say they actually signed, I think, Ty Detmer to start that year to rest Couch, and Ty Detmer had a season-ending injury, I think, like week 2 or something. So they end up putting Couch in and playing him as a rookie that first season.
Oh my goodness! And it goes around and
there's
around
your
since
segment
then.
of Browns history.
It does.
Right. Oh my goodness!
It doesn't change much since then at all.
No, it feels like it might happen, right? What if they put Baker in next week after week 2? Oh, my goodness. So, I look at my wife last night after Josh Gordon, the news breaks out of nowhere, and I'm like, why does this happen every single year? I mean, going into this game, I would have been so much more comfortable going into this season with a Josh Gordon. That kind of player changes everything. Like, I was looking at this offense, and they're decent. But this offense without Josh Gordon looked like the Dolphins' offense that Jarvis Landry just came from. Like a Ryan Tannehill, a Jarvis Landry, a Kenny Stills, a Kenyon Drake, just a Frank Gore. It's like, this is literally the Dolphins that we have to be a fan of now. And Josh Gordon takes that away. I went, something has to happen to my excitement every single year by like week 2. And then you just drag yourself through the mud through the rest of the season. Now, my hope is that doesn't happen. I have a lot to take away from that was positive from this game, but not a W, and that's what hurts.
Yeah, but, I mean, we could be a little positive, like you were just saying. When we first looked at this schedule, we knew the Steelers and the Saints were going to be two very tough games.
Yeah.
Okay, but one positive today was that it really didn't appear in the running portion of the game, but the offensive line looked better. They were better.
Yeah.
We didn't have Harrison didn't have multiple false starts. Seemed to play a lot better. So that's a bonus. Yes, I was going to say the receivers, Callaway, Higgins, both had some catches. And with Gordon not being out there, that's definitely a positive. The defense looks excellent. So now, they have to get the wins, but hopefully with the Jets, Raiders coming up, hopefully they'll pull it off and get a win for us. But I think there's still a lot to be optimistic for with this team.
Yeah, 2-2 after week 4 would make me so happy. So I'm really pulling for him, obviously, against the Jets. Sam Darnold looks like he can be picked apart quite a bit. He's still brand new rookie, 20 years old, and the Raiders have not been good, and they haven't been well coached yet. So, yeah, you hope that we kind of turn the tide and get some momentum these next 2 games. You just said it. We did not see a bunch of yellow this game. I'm not seeing yellow while we're doing this podcast like week 1. The penalties were, a lot down.
That was awful.
They were down. Thank God for the penalties being down. And Antonio Callaway definitely won that wide receiver 2 position for me after that monster catch. So, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot is thriving. But for the segment, to finish the segment, my thrive, and then we'll move into a little fantasy, and this will actually move us really well into some fantasy talk here. John Dorsey's choices of quarterbacks, okay? Patrick Mahomes, 326 yards and 6 touchdowns in Pittsburgh today. That's a John Dorsey quarterback pick.
You guys started him, right?
No.
We'll get into that.
No. I wanted Patrick Mahomes. Zach Shaffron drafted Pat Mahomes in our CST league, and I don't have him in my other league. In Pittsburgh, man, this guy's the next Brett Favre. I've been saying it since the draft 2 years ago. I wanted the Browns to draft Pat Mahomes that year. I thought he was going to be a steal, that he would fall into the top of the second round when we traded up to get Njoku. Or maybe it was Peppers. Yeah, we traded up to get Peppers, didn't we?
Well, they traded down from 12. Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I can't remember now. I think they dropped down and took Peppers, and then they moved back up into the first round to take Njoku.
Yep. Oh my goodness. Could you imagine? I would much rather have Pat Mahomes right now than Jabril Peppers. But
you think?
the thrive is that Baker Mayfield is also a John Dorsey quarterback who looks like the next Drew Brees. So if Pat Mahomes is going to be the next Brett Favre and Baker Mayfield is going to be the next Drew Brees and John Dorsey goes 2 for 2, I am very, very happy with having Drew Brees, hopefully, as our quarterback, the next Drew Brees and Baker Mayfield for the next 15 years, as Drew Brees has been for the Saints. So that's my thrive. I said my dive. We didn't use Njoku or Duke Johnson nearly enough. But what do you guys think of that thrive? What do you think of Pat Mahomes, Baker Mayfield, these guys being John Dorsey quarterback picks?
Well, for me, you can throw out anything and everything else John Dorsey has done. If he has solved the quarterback issue in Cleveland for the next 10 years, he deserves a statue, because we've had 15 different guys in here that haven't been able to do it. Mm-hmm. So he's done a lot of other moves. I don't care about the grades on any of that stuff right now. If we have our quarterback, then he is a legend in Cleveland already.
When's the next mayoral race for Cleveland's mayor? Is he able to jump in that if he has any spare time? Yeah, if he solves it.
Yeah, he might be able to once.
Yeah,
we have to see Baker play, of course, but yeah.
I mean, my goodness, man. 326 yards and 6 touchdowns. I mean, those are just Madden numbers. Those are unbelievable. On the Steelers. Absolutely incredible. No interceptions. I mean, that's a perfect game for me. So I don't know. It doesn't sound like you started him in fantasy, but I wanted to talk to you, Robby, since you're the fantasy man. Who did you start? Did you start anybody from the Browns-Saints game we'll start with, and who you started? And anybody you wish you started from the Browns-Saints game?
Well, I started Drew Brees. I have Drew Brees in a league of sport management graduate students here.
Okay.
And so Drew Brees, he did okay. I don't remember exactly what his points were, but did fine. And so he's not going to be the reason I lose, but I will end up losing. I'll get to that in a second. But
oh boy.
Yeah. Oh, I'll just get to it now. My opponent has started off with A.J. Green on Thursday, and then also had Drew Brees' number one target in Michael Thomas, and then also had Stephon Diggs. So that person is loaded up with the wide receivers, and so I'm having a decent week, but it's just one of those weeks where you go against the person who's having a really good week. But that happens, so I'm all right with it. Nobody else really in this game. I do have some shares of Callaway. I do a couple of dynasty leagues, and I thought Callaway was a really good pick in the draft. And I thought, obviously he'd be behind at the time Gordon and when Landry got brought over. So I thought it'd maybe be a stash for later. So I didn't start him this week just because, it's the first start. You always want to dip your toe in and see how it goes first. But he definitely showed out, and he'll be a flex option going forward. So that was promising to see in a couple leagues where I own him. But nobody else from this game, really. I don't own any Kamara. He was going too high for where I like him. And some of the other Saints players and Browns players I wasn't able to get. But yeah, I started Corey Clement was my big one. When I heard that Darren Sproles was out for the Eagles, I was going to throw in Clement, and Ajayi got hurt, so that obviously gave Clement more run and more opportunities, and he ended up had a really good week. So that was somebody I did a tweet for week 2 starts, and this was before Ajayi was out. I thought Clement would get some passing work down, and I thought he'd get in the end zone regardless if Ajayi was there or not, and he was one of my people who actually came through. T.Y. Hilton was another one. I own a couple shares of T.Y. Hilton, and I thought he had a really good matchup this week, so got some points from him. And then DJ Moore, the rookie wide receiver from the Panthers, he was looking like a bad choice all the way until like the fourth quarter, where he had a reception for a 52-yard touchdown, and that kind of one play made his day, and that's kind of saved my bacon there on that call. So he ended up scoring in the double digits. But those were my starts, and then the people who I wish I started, we already hit on him. Patrick Mahomes, I have him benched for Phillip Rivers. I'm just a big Phillip Rivers guy. He just kind of gets the job done. The Chargers somehow always get down, and he's always throwing touchdowns. They were actually up this game, obviously, against the Bills. And that's a major reason why I wanted to start him. The Bills got annihilated by Joe Flacco, so I thought Rivers for sure was a good play. And here's the thing. Rivers scored, in bunches. He had 3 touchdowns and 300-some yards, and it's just that this guy named Patrick Mahomes doubled his touchdown total. And so you're always going to wish you started the guy with 6 touchdowns rather than the guy with 3. So I probably won't make that mistake going forward when Mahomes has a good matchup, and he'll be in the starting lineup. And then Sammy Watkins is another one. Sammy fell in a lot of drafts, so I was able to scoop him up here and there. And he had a good game this week. And just obviously with Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce there, Watkins was kind of a risky start, and I didn't put him in. And he had a really good game. He didn't get one of the 6 touchdowns, but he had 100 yards and quite a few catches. So he had a good week.
Yeah, Corey Clement, that's exactly the kind of role I wanted Duke Johnson to have. 55 yards receiving, 30 yards rushing, and a touchdown. He's kind of that Darren Sproles-like guy, but even a little more built. And so that's what I want Duke Johnson to be for us. I kind of felt he would go off, but like you said, you dip your toe in the waters on some certain guys. And I wasn't all in on Corey Clement this week, and I didn't really have a place for him on either of my teams. I did start Michael Thomas, so that was nice for me today, but it was very bittersweet, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you can't,
that's a tough.
You can't sit that guy. But, man, watching this game, I'm very happy to have him the rest of the year. he was actually on my draft board of wide receivers at number 2 overall, right after AB this year. I had him above Odell, I had him above Julio, had him above AJ Green, everybody. I really feel like this is the year for Michael Thomas, and he is showing out, and he's already made history, right? Most receptions in the first 2 games of the season ever, which is unbelievable. Wow. I think it's 27 at least he had receptions between both games, so just crazy double-digit numbers he's put up in receptions both weeks. So glad to have him. I was missing out on – I'm high on Kamara. I'm higher than you at Kamara, but he didn't do that great. It looks like he had about 14.5 points in fantasy with that 2-point conversion today. So kind of wish I had him, but there were definitely better people out there. I definitely wish I grabbed Ryan Fitzpatrick. I'm starting Matt Stafford right now again, going with him. And you live by the Stafford, you die by the Stafford, I guess. I don't know, but I really wish I would have grabbed Fitzpatrick off of waivers. He goes for 50 fantasy points again today, almost 400 yards and another 4 touchdowns. I don't know where this guy has found the fountain of youth, in his beard or something.
Yeah, definitely the beard. It's got to be the beard.
Yeah, and some tight ends showed out today. O.J. Howard, I wish I would have grabbed a guy like him. Last I saw, he had 93 yards and a touchdown. Travis Kelce had 109 yards and 2 touchdowns. My goodness. My buddy has A.J. Green, and he has Travis Kelce. I have to look at the rest of his team, but he's just got to be completely obliterating. I'm glad I'm not playing him this week. But, man, again, Patrick Mahomes. I wish I had Patrick Mahomes. It was a crazy day for fantasy today, man. Really big numbers all around by some guys. I also had Adam Thielen, who went off for me today. You mentioned, what is the deal with Kirk Cousins, man? He knows how to get the ball to literally everybody. What did Stephon Diggs have? 111 yards and a touchdown, right?
Yep.
Adam Thielen.
That's pretty cool.
12 receptions for 131 yards and a touchdown.
Wow.
How do you divide that up between 2 guys in one game?
Nice.
I mean, my goodness.
And I think Kyle Rudolph was even usable. He had 7 for 72. So, I mean, for a tight end, obviously that didn't find the end zone. You'll take 7 receptions and 72 yards. So he made his top 3 targets all fantasy relevant, which is what you were hoping when you took, Kirk Cousins in that Vikings offense.
That's right. Oh, my goodness. Also, one last one, I had Nelson Aguilar in my flex because my story is, I'll skip right to story time for fantasy, or at least one. I had Josh Gordon in my flex as of yesterday. I was flexing Josh Gordon. And I go on Twitter and I'm like, all right, guys, I just got to get past this news with making a decision on my team. Let's just do that. Kenny Golladay or Nelson Aguilar. And everybody said Aguilar. So both of them did pretty good. Golladay had 3 receptions for 49 yards and a touchdown, but I made the right decision. Aguilar had 5 receptions for 88 yards and a touchdown. And I didn't get to see the Eagles game. I don't know if you got to see it some on Red Zone, but he's like the last man standing on the offense, it sounds like. Mike Wallace left the game. Alshon Jeffrey, Jay Ajayi left the game. It sounds like it was Corey Clement and Nelson Aguilar and Nick Foles out on the field together.
Yeah, they are literally starting their second string offense. I'm pretty sure every single position is missing their top guy, except for Zach Ertz, the tight end.
Zach Ertz.
Even their offensive line has a couple of injuries on it, so they are not having their best start injury wise.
My goodness, from the Super Bowl to where they are now. It's a sad start to the season for the Eagles and for fantasy, but glad I had Aguilar. What about some surprises that you saw today and some stars that you saw today? Maybe even on your team or guys that you're going to be having your eye on for trades and whatnot this week?
Well, for me, I think, we talked about a lot of the people who had really, really good games between yours and mine with the Chiefs players and O.J. Howard and people on the Buccaneers. Somehow Deshaun Jackson keeps on getting it done. I don't understand. He's He's 33 years old, and he was always known for, that one play. He'd get 75 yards and a touchdown. He did it twice last week and did it again this week. It's just amazing. So if I had Deshaun Jackson, that'd be somebody I'm looking to sell, kind of out of your question. But someone I'm looking to get is someone who's actually playing right now. And you probably don't want to buy these people high, but at some point this person will have a bad game, and that's the time to buy. Philip Lindsay's been looking really good. I've been kind of peeking in on this game every now and then while we're doing this, and he's the running back for the Broncos that's split with the rookie Royce Freeman, and Philip Lindsay is just kind of dominating that backfield right now, doing a really good job. They don't have any points as a team, but he has, let me pull it up here, 5 rushes for 68 yards. He had one big run for 53 yards, and then also has a catch as well. So that's the kind of stuff that's going to get you more reps going forward, and I think he might even be the one to own between him and Freeman. It's a little early to say that, but
wow.
I think once they have a down game, that's the time where you try and buy Philip Lindsay.
I'm starting Royce Freeman right now, man. That's been one of my guys this year. I was hoping he'd be my Kareem Hunt third round, fourth round running back that you'd steal, and he is not showing out yet. Oh, my goodness. Some surprises for me were Mike Williams, in one sense. I kind of felt like he was going to get a touchdown today, so I played him in a daily. So he did grab a touchdown from Phillip Rivers. I think they're going to get him more involved. Again, I think Royce Freeman in a negative way. Royce, it's at the half, I think, right now, and he has 1.6 fantasy points for me, 16 yards. And that's just rough. That's rough. He's just not getting enough against Oakland. So that's not making me happy. Let's see here. Aaron Rodgers, 281 yards and a touchdown on one leg. That's pretty nice. That's kind of a surprise. I don't really know what happened to his knee, but it seems like he was able to start and come out pretty strong today. Cam Newton, 335 yards and 3 touchdowns on the Falcons away game. That's a surprise to me. I didn't think he was going to show out that much. And then just all these quarterbacks. Kirk Cousins, 425 yards and 4 touchdowns. And we've already talked about Mahomes and Fitzpatrick. And, the list goes on and on. Roethlisberger.
Andy Dalton on Thursday.
Andy Dalton on the Ravens. Yes, absolutely. Roethlisberger had to make a comeback. Had to do all he could to make a comeback against Kansas City. 452 yards and 4 total touchdowns. And I didn't think he was going to play well because he had that elbow injury, I think, on his throwing arm. But he was able to get it done. Let's move on here. Those are some surprises and stars today. Obviously, there'll be more throughout the day. But that's just from earlier on in these games. So how about your favorite season-long Browns fantasy players, or maybe just one fantasy player if you don't have too many? I know you talked Callaway a bit on your Dynasty.
Yeah, for a player that I'm looking at, season-long, it's kind of tough because we talked about all the different options that the Browns offense has, and obviously there's one less with Josh Gordon, moving out either through trade or be released. But I think that just makes Jarvis Landry all the more appealing. It kind of gives him maybe that target share that he had with the Miami Dolphins. That was the one knock that I had on him personally when he came to the Browns was I don't think he can get the same targets. I think he had 164 targets with the Dolphins last season, and I didn't think he'd get near that number. But now with Josh Gordon potentially moving out, 7 targets was what he got this week, and I think that's going to be one of his lowest target shares of the entire season. I think he's a guy that's going to be getting in the double digits.
Wow. What about you, Rod? Anything?
Leader of that wide receiver room.
I mean, yeah, I think you still have to like the Browns' defense.
Yeah.
So, just with them creating turnovers and getting some sacks, I think you can definitely look at them. Same way, the Browns' offense. I mean, I had hopes for Tyrod Taylor, as a fantasy quarterback, but he's really not putting up the kind of numbers that you probably want, especially compared to what some of these other guys are putting up. It's crazy. So I think he's kind of off the table at this point. Other than that, I mean, the running game's really not going. Duke Johnson's not going, and Njoku's not catching the ball. So, Jarvis Landry and the defense are probably the the main things that I would look at from a fantasy standpoint.
I mean, I've been talking Duke the whole episode. I would definitely buy low on Duke if you can from a Duke owner in your league. I still trust that Todd Haley's going to get this thing going and finally get Duke some run for the rest of the season and give him what he should be getting production-wise. So I'd buy low on Duke, and Jarvis Landry is really cementing himself as a nice player in fantasy, especially PPR as well, or half PPR. What do you guys think about Josh Gordon? Does he have any value if he finds a team in the NFL after this whole thing went down? Or do we have to wait on the news breaking on what actually happened?
I think it's interesting. Or go ahead, Rod.
I was just going to say I wouldn't buy him at this point.
Yeah.
Fantasy. It's just too, chances. You don't know where he's going to end up. You don't know what the issues are. So I would just avoid him at this point.
I don't think we talked about it too much, kind of what happened in the Josh Gordon situation, and you guys probably have a better read than I do, but, he wasn't himself, apparently, and he was either late to a meeting or late to arriving where the team was meeting, and, I think there's going to be something that's deeper than that. I think all the time that they've spent waiting on him, working with him, giving him the tools he needs to succeed, I don't think they're cutting him just because he's a little late to a meeting, so there's going to be something, I think, that comes out a little later if he wasn't himself. Maybe he had a relapse, unfortunately, or something like that. But I think with how much they've invested in him, I don't think they would just cut him over something that's, being late to a meeting. So you guys might have a better take on that. But I think a suspension's probably coming. So I'm definitely not buying him anytime soon.
I want to share something that one of my Twitter followers sent to me. And I don't know how much this played into anything, but it's just an angle that people really haven't talked about, and with the whole addiction thing. So I like to say this about Josh Gordon that I haven't heard on TV or radio. Yes, the Browns have stuck by him through his ups and downs, as well as the fans. From a recovering addict standpoint, you need a 100% overall, not just kicking the drug, but surroundings as well. As a man, he needs this. It's best for him, and when you're a recovering addict, it's you first. So his whole point is that between Josh and the Browns, they may have just come to the decision that for him to truly recover, he needs a change of scenery. So I don't know if that's what happened. There are obviously a lot of other things that we're hearing about, but I just feel like it's not truly a relapse, because if it was a relapse, I don't think they would even be talking about waiting till Monday to cut him and all this. If he relapsed, he'd probably be gone, because he's done if he relapsed, right? He's on his third strike. The NFL hasn't changed anything with their policy on drugs or marijuana or anything like that. So he's done if he relapsed. So I think that he probably did show up late. There's talk about him doing this promotional video at 11 o'clock Friday night at the facility that we don't know if that was approved or whatnot, and that he may or may not have gotten hurt during that. So I think the Browns and maybe Josh, just one or the other came to the conclusion that they probably should have come to a long time ago, that he needed a change of scenery. I mean, let's face it, this is a guy the Browns could have gotten a second or third round pick a few years ago for, probably, maybe more, even while he wasn't in football. So it's a shame. I don't think they're going to get a lot now, but I think overall this probably is the best thing for Josh, though, is for him to move on. Football's not even that important. The guy needs to get his life together. He obviously still has issues, or this wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, it's hard to speculate on what actually happens and what that actually means by he wasn't himself. We were not experts. We're not around the facility. We're not in Berea, so it's hard to speculate there. And I don't know if he would have gone on Instagram like you did and said, "Hey, anybody out there, any other NFL team looking for a real deep threat?" If he knew this, I'm done. This is my last chance. I got caught. Mm-hmm. I'm out. Like, you're not even going to put that out there. However, the most the actual major thing here that I think everybody's missing, because drugs and alcohol and his rehab have surrounded this whole thing, is honestly it's been persistent in the news. It's been persistent in the news about Josh Gordon that he doesn't care. He's like the student who could be the easy valedictorian in your high school or college and just doesn't put forth the effort because he doesn't care.
Right.
He could be the best wide receiver to ever play football. He just doesn't put forth the effort to care and practice or anything. And that's what we're hearing, but it's been in the background of, he's been smoking weed. He drank alcohol. He has a problem. He just doesn't care. Like, that's his attitude. And so to do something that probably he didn't have permission for in the evening, to go late into the night and to say, you have a short leash. If you don't do what this organization wants you to do, one more strike and you're out of here, drugs or not. And I think he did stay out late to do this thing. He thought, okay, it's not drugs or alcohol, so no big deal, and then didn't show up on time because he doesn't care. And they said, you're gone, man, you're done. This isn't the kind of character or culture that we want around here. And so they cut ties. I think that that's what happened. I think that's what we can speculate on, because it's been persistent that he's that kind of character. Which is a bummer, because he's the greatest at lip service. He can get in front of that microphone and say everything we want him to hear, and he hasn't come through with his actions. So on a lighter note, since I don't think it doesn't sound like it was drug related, if he does go to another team, I believe he's coming to your boys, Robby, the Cowboys.
You think so, huh? I've heard a lot of people say that. I mean, he tweeted out that in the 49ers, I believe. So I think a lot of it depends on how that game goes tonight. Obviously, week one left a lot to be desired in the positions that left the Cowboys, with kicker and wide receiver and receiving options for Dak. But I'm hoping that they show a little bit better tonight against the Giants, and then put some of that to bed.
It would certainly take him out of the spotlight if we went to Dallas now, wouldn't it?
If anybody's going to go after it and make something happen, it's Jerry Jones. If anybody's going to try this out, if anybody's crazy enough, it's Jerry, right?
No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong at all. My one thought, and I like how you guys put it out, that if it was something that was more serious where he might get suspended, he wouldn't be tweeting out for other teams to look at him, and I agree with that. So my thought process was, this is a type of project where Bill Belichick loves talented people that sometimes have a little bit of off-the-field issues, but when he thinks the Patriot way can kind of keep them in line, wouldn't this just be a total Patriots move to just get an immense talent for as cheap as he is?
I really hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah,
Same.
It would be.
Yeah,
it would be.
But it seems like it's aligning.
Yeah, that seems to be the narrative that's playing out all across my news feed, my Twitter. Everybody's saying, okay, get your Gordon Patriots jerseys ready. But I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to see that happen.
Well, the thing that's scary about that is the Browns have they've done so many trades recently with the Patriots too. Yeah. You almost feel like that's the first phone call they're going to take.
Yep.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And we can't even speculate on what we get for him. It's going to be interesting over the next couple of days. We'll see if a trade occurs. Let's jump back into fantasy before we end here with Robby. Robby, you posted a little while back before the fantasy season really kicked off that you had some My Guys. I know we both are fantasy footballers fans. And could you run through a couple of your My Guys, what you had before the season, the guys you had before the season, and where they're at now?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I love talking about my guys, and some of them I'm going to be happier than others to talk about it due to their couple of performances. But I'll start with quarterback. My big sought-after picks were Kirk Cousins and Cam Newton, kind of for different reasons. I loved how the Vikings offense clicked with Case Keenum, and then I just thought that Case Keenum wasn't quite as talented as Kirk Cousins. So when Kirk Cousins comes in and you mesh them together, I just thought Kirk could do what Keenum did, and then multiply that from there. So he's done that last week to a smaller degree, and then definitely this week he's had success. And so that's been, advantageous for where I've gotten him. And then the other one was Cam Newton. And I like Cam Newton not so much for just anything in particular, but other than where he was going in drafts. That last year he had finished as QB2, and the year before he'd finished as the number 1 overall QB. So when he was going as the 7th QB in this summer and even later as we got into the fall, I thought that was just a steal of a value. So that's another one I had advocated for a lot of people to take. And I think by the end of when a lot of drafts started happening right before the season, a week or two before the season started, he had moved up to QB4 and QB3. So I was a little bit cooler on him, but it's a lot about value for me. And Kirk Cousins was kind of that main value. But moving to running back, the big names for me were kind of that second tier of running backs. I love Joe Mixon, Jordan Howard, Devontae Freeman. It was the guys that were a little bit cheaper than the first round running backs, but still could give you those running back 1 weeks. And unfortunately, a lot of those guys have gotten injured. If you heard the names, Mixon's banged up, Freeman's banged up, and then Jordan Howard's kind of my lone standing guy that's still healthy. So, but they both look. 3 of them have looked good, and so I'm hoping that continues when they get healthy again. Wide receiver, this is where I kind of take a little hit here. Amari Cooper was my big guy that I thought was going to have a bounce-back year as the kind of the only man in town for Derek Carr and John Gruden's offense. And last week it was just abysmal. I think he had 1 catch for 9 yards, and right now he's not doing too much either. So I'm going to stick by him. I'm going to ride that train a little bit longer at least and see where that takes me. But Amari Cooper was my big guy. And then Demaryius Thomas, a lot of people were thinking he was kind of getting a little bit older. And they thought with Case Keenum, he might be looking at Sanders a little bit more. But I've still been riding with Demaryius Thomas a little bit, and we'll see how he does. Then tight end, there's just a ton of tight ends that are good. My big ones kind of were George Kittle, who had a great week 1, and then Vance McDonald, who got on the field today but wasn't back to his full role. So I'm hoping he steps it up as the season goes on and he gets healthier.
I really had no my guys myself at quarterback because I'm one of those guys that waits till one of my last picks and goes after whoever's left because I know a guy like a Matt Stafford, who I have, which I'm not happy about right now, or a Jared Goff, who can put me up some big numbers sometimes and is pretty consistent on the in-between weeks where he doesn't have huge games. I have Jared Goff on another team, or a Patrick Mahomes was one of my guys that I went, okay, if he's there, I'll definitely take him. And he was stolen up from under me in 2 drafts where I wanted him. So that's quarterback. Running back was, I kind of go a little bit deeper on my guys, so you're not going to hear a ton of stars or guys that you could be stars. Some of those big names, like you mentioned, like an Amari Cooper still there. These guys were my guys because they had extreme value. I had to scroll down to get them, like a Chris Carson, starting running back for the Seahawks, who flashed a little bit last year, got injured. Still not, gaining that RB1 talk for me yet through 2 weeks, but he was my guy. Kerryon Johnson.
He's looked good. Carson's looked good. Yeah, he's looked good. Penny's struggled a lot. Obviously, he got hurt, and he's had issues with pass protection. I didn't go deep enough on my running backs because Chris Carson's one of my guys as well. Even after they drafted Penny, I was the one arguing. I'm in the Carson side of the ring. So he looked good week 1, and I'm excited for Monday night to see if that continues. So I like that pick.
Yeah, he grinded it out last Sunday, but just not huge fantasy numbers. So, yeah, I'm excited to see what he does week 2. Kenny Golladay, but he's like a Kareem Hunt to me as well, but a guy that I'm not really going to put my chips on until maybe halfway through the season. I really need the Detroit Lions to see, wow, our running game is awful, and we don't know what we're doing. So let's just keep giving Kerryon Johnson the ball. And one of my stars who I felt like had a lot of value this year, because I could get him at pick 7, 8, 9, or 10 even in the first round, and that was Leonard Fournette. He was my guy. I felt like he was going to be fresh this year. I went, man, I hope he doesn't get any injuries this year on his lower body. And what do we see week 1? Yanks a hamstring, not playing in this current game. TJ Yeldon's getting the start, and I am really bummed because I do have Fournette on one of my major teams. If he pulled the hamstring, that just means more opportunity for lower body injury through the rest of the season. So bummed about that.
I hate hamstrings early in the season. I think back to Miles Austin as a Cowboys fan, and that would just plague him the entire year. So never good to hear hamstrings early in the year.
Yeah, man. So those are my running backs. Wide receivers, Mike Williams. Had to scroll really far down to get Mike Williams this year. But finally flashed here in week 2. Got himself a touchdown and 2 receptions for 27 yards. I think if they start bringing him more into the fold, he's gotten to see how Keenan Allen runs routes and watch one of the best in the game this past year since he was injured. So hope they get him into the fold. I've been told that I've heard it at least from like fantasy footballers and some sites that he looks like Terrell Owens. And so if this guy is anywhere close to Terrell Owens, he's going to be putting up crazy fantasy numbers in the near future. Mike Williams, and then Michael Thomas. I mentioned that earlier. He was right behind Antonio Brown for me as a top wide receiver this year, even above Odell, Julio, all of them. And that one's turned out well. Tight end. I'm surprised you didn't mention this one. Trey Burton on the Bears is my guy at tight end this year. And not a huge week 1, but I think Mitchell Trubisky is going to be a drop down to the tight end kind of guy all year, and Trey Burton is their receiving tight end there. So it all works out.
It's interesting. It's interesting you bring him up. He's actually one of my fade guys. And you mentioned fantasy footballers, and they were obviously loving Trey Boo Boo, as they call him.
Oh, yeah.
And I was not on the Trey Burton bandwagon. I was the one kind of talking him down a little bit because I think all the way up to like tight end 6 or 7 in drafts. And my thought process was he just has had a small sample size, and it's been with the Eagles, who are a championship-winning offense, and Carson Wentz and all their weaponry, and then going to Mitch Trubisky, competing for targets with Allen Robinson as well as Tariq Cohen and some of those guys. I just thought he'd be a little bit further down than when people were trying to draft him. So definitely didn't have the best week 1. I think they play on Monday, so we'll see how he goes from there.
Yep, Monday, playing the Seahawks. Let's jump into a little story time here. We've got, I'm sure, a few stories in our fantasy team so far that we haven't mentioned. But first, let's start with Rod. Rod, you don't have a fantasy team, but you did have a fantasy story. You had a fantasy experience talking to Leroy Kelly, right, this morning?
Yeah,
Tell us about
Leroy
that.
Kelly. Yeah, it was really cool. I mean, Leroy Kelly, Brown's great, and NFL Hall of Famer. He was actually in the next town over from me this morning. There's a little kegs and eggs action, bunch of Browns backers, and I get to go. Met up with a couple of guys I know from the Cincinnati Dayton Browns group that I've gone to a couple times. And Leroy Kelly was there, and got to go up and shake his hand. And, I actually talked to him for about 10 minutes, talked a little bit of football. I asked if he would come on the podcast or let me do an interview with him. And he said he quit doing interviews a while back. And I guess he, at some point, had gotten caught wherein something he said was controversial and things kind of turned against him. So I fully understand, but it was just great talking to him. Just a super guy, kind of a light up the room sort of guy. And just to kind of put out a few things that he said about football, he's not real happy with some of the rule changes. And I don't want anybody to go after Leroy Kelly on anything, because I fully understood everything he was saying. He doesn't like the fact that you can't hit the quarterback anymore. He doesn't like the catch, the whole thing with the catches and all the penalties and everything. He wants guys to play. He just wants to see guys play football. So he is not, I don't think he's a real big fan on today's game. I think he would like to see things kind of go back to the way they were, where you're just out there grinding, guy against guy. And I mean, that's the league that he played in. So I totally understand. But he's a super nice guy. Just really enjoyed talking to him. So, definitely one of the highlights of my year, I would say, was meeting Leroy Kelly.
That's awesome, Rod. I'm glad you had that experience, man. Thanks for sharing that one. Robby, I'm going to share just some quick fantasy stories over week 1 and week 2 so far in the fantasy
Absolutely.
season, and then I want to hand it over to you here. So I mentioned I had Josh Gordon yesterday in my flex. He's now on my bench. I think I got to cut him, but I'm going to wait this week and see what happens, see if he is a Jerry Jones pickup or not. Carlos Hyde I had last week. He was one of my stardom guys. I said start him against the Steelers. This guy's going to get all the totes he can get in the rain. And they did hand him the ball, I think, 22 times last week and just didn't get it done. Not a ton of yardage. Really only saved his fantasy day with a touchdown. And that was very frustrating. Probably lost me some cash in daily fantasy. I picked Joe Mixon on one of my major teams, actually our Cleveland Sports Talk League. Joe Mixon and...
Oh, I like that pick.
Yeah, well, he's got to get knee. He went through knee surgery this week.
Yeah. I don't like it as much now, but I like that week 1 pick for sure.
So let me tell you my starting running backs in that league week 1. Le'Veon Bell and Joe Mixon.
Oh, boy.
Well, I didn't start Le'Veon Bell, but that's who I drafted to start in the first place. So put him down. I had James Conner. Didn't start him because I put Carlos Hyde in his spot. So I was running with Carlos Hyde and Joe Mixon, and I lost my fantasy day in a big way. So that's where I'm at. I'm starting James Conner today, but I didn't see his numbers. I'm actually going to watch the Steelers game later, but it didn't look like he did much. It was a shootout.
He got a late touchdown. I remember that.
Okay.
Late touchdown.
So maybe saved his fantasy day a bit for me. But, all right, man, any stories from you that are just wild?
Yeah, I have one, and sadly it ends in heartbreak. But
we're used to it.
Yeah, exactly, right? I think I fit right in right now. So I have Aaron Rodgers in a league, and I'm going against Aaron Rodgers in a second league, and we're going into the Sunday night game, which is Bears and Packers. Some side information, the league that I am winning in is the one where the opponent has Aaron Rodgers and Randall Cobb. The league that I'm losing in, I have Aaron Rodgers. So, I'm hoping Aaron Rodgers gets in there, gets some points, but he doesn't get too much where I win in one league and lose in the other. I'm hoping he gets, right in the middle, that perfect middle where he gets enough points to help me win, not enough to help me lose. And I have a huge lead. It's 45 points or something like that. And so we start the game, and Aaron Rodgers is just struggling. They're down 20-0, and I'm thinking, well, that's fine. I guess I'll win one league, I'll lose one league, I'll just call it a wash. And then he goes out, and I'm thinking, oh gosh, this one league where I invested in Aaron Rodgers, I never go quarterback early, but I got him in a trade last season when he got hurt. So it's a dynasty league. I got him in a trade where he got hurt, so it didn't cost me a ton. I gave up another quarterback, and then he's just out for, it looked like I don't know if you guys watched that game, but it looked like he fell on his knee to a point where it was an MCL, it would be multiple week thing or something worse. He grabbed it like it was pretty bad, but yeah. So I'm thinking, okay, I win one league, I lose the other league, not a big deal. Then he comes back out at halftime, and everyone knows what's going to happen, right? Like Aaron Rodgers pumped up, he's coming back, and he just starts leading this comeback. And pretty soon we get to a point that it's late in the fourth quarter where I'm winning the league where I'm now ahead in the league where I have Aaron Rodgers. I've come back and I'm winning, and I came back from a long ways down because Aaron Rodgers threw quite a few touchdowns. But now I have a slight lead in the league where I'm playing against Aaron Rodgers and Randall Cobb. I have like a 10-point lead. And then, of course, he throws a 50-some-yard touchdown to Randall Cobb where I lose that lead in that league. And then the opponent in the league where I do have Aaron Rodgers had the Rams defense the next day, and the Rams defense picked off Derek Carr 3 times. I mean, he just tossed it to the Rams all night long. And so I ended up losing both leagues. And so we have some disappointment in week 1. But we're doing a little bit better this week. So that's my story, as sad as it is. But yeah, we're hoping to do better this week.
Oh my goodness, I can't imagine the anxiety.
Exactly.
Oh, the fantasy anxiety. Well, hey, let's see here. Amari Cooper right now has 6 receptions for, what did I see, 79 yards?
Let's go.
Hey.
We got to stay on this podcast until that game's over. He's doing better without me watching.
That's right. What does it say now? Let me update it. Yeah, third quarter. That's what he's got. 6 receptions for 79 yards on 6 targets. So, way to go, Derek Carr. John Gruden embarrassed him enough on live TV to where he said, okay, we're throwing the ball to Amari, right?
Yep,
Right.
exactly.
Oh,
exactly.
Man. All right, so let's end here. I talk about our IQ test because we are sponsored by Ticket IQ now. So we're going to do a little IQ test, and then what we're going to do is go around the round table, and we're going to grade it as lunacy or genius. So we'll do the IQ test. Your bold prediction, it can be fantasy, it can be on the Browns, it can be, pretty much anywhere in the sports world. I figured, Robby, you would do a bold fantasy prediction for us. But Rod, do you want to start? What's your IQ test?
Sure.
Bold prediction, man.
Sure. I'm going to throw you guys for a loop and go fantasy, and I'm going to say that next week, it's kind of going to be a mix here, but next week, Ryan Fitzpatrick and the Buccaneers take on the Steelers Monday night, and Ryan Fitzpatrick goes off again.
Oh my
and
goodness.
The Steelers start off 0-2-1. And we think we have problems in Cleveland. They have to be freaking out in Pittsburgh if their team starts off 0-2-1. So that's my bold prediction.
Love it.
Him and Deshaun Jackson found the fountain of youth. I'm telling you. Oh my goodness, I love it. All right, Rod. Thank you for. Robby. How about for you, man? What is your bold prediction for next week?
So, Rod, I like how you go to Ryan Fitzpatrick. I actually posted a week 1 overreaction. Are you buying or selling? If he gets one more win, Fitzpatrick, that is, would Winston come back and start was my big question. Everyone was saying, no, Winston's the quarterback. Winston's the guy. And I wonder if I did that poll again after the second week, what they'd be saying. So I like that one for sure. I definitely think he continues to start, especially if he wins a week 3 and goes 3-0. I'll keep mine with fantasy, and I'll actually keep it with the Browns. With Josh Gordon potentially out here in Cleveland, I think Jarvis Landry is a top 5 wide receiver in all the NFL. I think he's just going to get the targets. He's going to get peppered from whoever the quarterback is, Tyrod, as long as he starts, and then Baker, he's going to be a go-to for Baker. I think he's a top 5 option in PPR because he's just going to get, 7, 8, 9, 10 receptions a game, and I think he's going to find the end zone quite a few times. So that's my bold take there.
All right, guys.
Genius.
Yeah, genius. Yeah, we didn't grade Rod's. I think that one's genius because I want the Steelers to lose. And like I said, Fitzpatrick and Deshaun Jackson have found the fountain of youth. And I think you do that poll, Fitzpatrick is the starter even when Jameis gets back.
I think so.
I'm going to do it, and I'm going to see how people have changed their minds from just 2 weeks of this compared to 1. But yeah, I also give it a genius call. The Steelers gave up just a multitude of touchdowns to Mahomes. I don't see why that can't happen for Ryan Fitzpatrick and how well that offense is doing.
I think it's genius for week 3 because I would have said it was lunacy for week 2. I would have said the Saints did not prepare for that kind of game from Fitzpatrick and the Buccaneers, and they got surprised and then ran over. But it's not going to happen week 2. The Eagles are going to be prepped. They're a championship caliber team. Nick Foles was a Super Bowl MVP. They're not going to play the same way they did game 1. And guess what? Fitzpatrick rolled them again. So you got to say genius. You can't say that he's going to stop. He's done this 2 times in a row. He's hit his stride. For me, I say that the Browns get their first win of the season on a Thursday night playing the Jets. And I think that Joe Schobert will be named Defensive Player of the Week the following week.
I like it. I think they definitely have a really good chance to beat the Jets, especially with how good the defense is and with Darnold being a rookie. So that's almost maybe just lukewarm. I think they're going to be pretty evenly matched there. But, yeah, for sure. I like the bold take with Joe getting the Player of the Week.
Yeah, I'll take anything that gets us our first win, Chad. So, yeah, love it.
Yeah, mainly it's the Joe Schobert one. He's been kind of quiet. He was our only Pro Bowler last year. Been kind of quiet these first 2 games. He's just been hovering around Myles Garrett, waiting for Myles Garrett to pop a ball out and catch it. And I think Joe just takes over. I think he forces some fumbles in this game, and he is the main reason that we roll over the Jets. So Myles Garrett will have to keep waiting for his Defensive Player of the Week, unfortunately, after Week 3. But thank you, guys. That was a genius take. I appreciate it. We're genius all around today, and I love that. Hey, Robby, one last thing, man. Let the people know where they can find your work, your projects, where they can find you on the Twitter sphere, all of that jazz before we let you go.
Absolutely. So I am on Twitter at Robby Jeffries. That's ROBBY Jeffries. And that's where I kind of post a lot of my work. I write for a couple of sites and do some editing for them as well. So kind of the work gets all over the place, but all of it funnels through that Twitter, and you'll be able to find everything that I do. And then I just like interacting with people in general. It doesn't have to be anything official. If you guys got questions, if you guys just want to talk fantasy and just go back and forth about Trey Burton takes or anything like that, I'm happy to do it. I love talking fantasy and even football in general. So let's definitely continue that.
Thank you, Robby. Thank you, Rod. Rod, any last words?
I just want to see a win. I mean, I continued my my series on Browns Backers Club. It's a pretty cool article out this week. I talked to the president of the LA/Hollywood Browns Backers, Hollywood, California, and just kind of really cool talking to his name. His name's John, and got a club out there that he's grown from 5 people to over 600.
Wow!
And they have some celebs that stop in every now and then. So just really cool. So I've been having a lot of fun with that. But yeah, let's get a win Thursday night. That's my parting words.
I'm rooting for you guys.
Right on. Thanks again, Robby. Thanks to Ticket IQ, and thanks to Thrive Fantasy. This has been the Brownie Sunday Podcast. Cheers.